Welcome to the Procurement Signal, the show that tunes into the future of procurement. In every episode, we dive straight into how modern teams are transforming supplier relationships, elevating vendor management, tackling supplier risk, and driving real sustainability impact. If you're ready to rewire procurement from a back-office function to a strategic powerhouse, you're in the right place. This is your signal. Amplify what procurement can be.
Hi there, and welcome to the Procurement Signal. Whether you are new to procurement or are a seasoned professional, you'll come across three broad processes. Some of us spend more time in one than the other. These are source to contract, S2C, procure to pay, P2P, and Supplier Relationship Management, SRM. The fundamental reason for these processes is risk management. Yet many of us see it as a procedural compliance or administrative exercise. So, in today's episode, I'm diving into the threats that can derail even the most seasoned procurement teams. Let's start with the beginning of the journey, source to contract. Imagine a business racing to hit a time to market goal. They skip the quality audit to save 2 weeks. They sign a contract based on a vendor's promise to scale and glowing track record of customer reviews. But in 3 months in, the vendor's production line chokes. The reality was, the vendor was already at 90% capacity when they signed your contract, but they needed the business to fund an expansion to a new site. The business unit accepted the vendor's terms in spite of legal and procurement's caution. Now, there is a daily crisis meeting just to understand how production output will be made available. A simple quality audit would have caught this. In addition, the contract clauses to compensate the business unit for failure to deliver would have sent a very different signal to the vendor. What happened in this example is the risk of bias. The business unit was biased to this vendor for whatever reason, in spite of caution from the internal teams. The goal of source to contract is to select the best supplier and secure a signed legal contract that works for your business. Now let's move to procure to pay. Most people see P2P as the boring part. It's the data entry, the three-way matches, and the payments. Let's use the same example. A new business unit that decides to operate outside the parent company's ERP system so that they can move faster. They set up a production line based on a 6-month sales forecast. But then reality hits. They only sell 10% of that forecast month to month. Because they bypass the standard P2P circuit breakers, the system keeps ordering raw materials and parts. The warehouse is filling up with products that aren't selling. This isn't just an inventory issue, it's a liquidity crisis. Subconsciously, when we insist on three-way matches and budgetary approvals, it's not just bureaucracy. We're ensuring the company doesn't accidentally put itself into a corner. The risks here are immediate and often financial. Finally, we have Supplier Relationship Management, or SRM. This is where the people side of procurement really shines. But it's also the place where we have a couple of misconceptions. The first one is that size equals significance. In most firms, we follow the money. We spend 80% of our time with high spend vendors. It makes sense, right? But in the real world, spend is not a measure of risk. Think about it. You might spend 50 million a year with a global logistics partner. They're huge and they have great maturity. But you might spend only 50,000 with a tiny specialized chemical supplier who provides you a raw material for your product. If the 50 million logistics firm has a problem, you'll be able to work with them and find a workaround. But if that 50K supplier goes under, your entire 50 million operation will grind to a halt. There is no workaround for a unique raw material. This is why those casual quarterly meetups with small suppliers are so important. You're not just catching up to talk about the weather or coffee. You're performing subconscious intelligence gathering. You're listening for risks such as labor strikes, financial stress, or problem in their supply chain with sub-tier suppliers. That meetup is a high-level risk assessment that no software algorithm can replicate. It is your early warning system. Okay, so I mentioned earlier on that there were two misconceptions. Now, the second one is about ownership. There is this idea that procurement owns the relationship with the supplier. But let's clear that up. Procurement owns the contract, but the business owns the relationship. The business teams are in the trenches with the supplier every single day. Procurement's role shifts from being a buyer to oversight. We should be the ones asking the business, are we actually getting the value we signed up for? This is where roles like supplier or vendor managers become crucial. While the business is focused on the day-to-day delivery, procurement is focused on the total cost of ownership. So we do the heavy lifting that the business doesn't have time for. Things like running performance reviews, conducting risk audits, building scorecards, leading quarterly business reviews. And most importantly, when things go wrong, we escalate. While the business team is trying to hit their daily targets, we're looking beyond that dotted line to ensure that the value that was promised at the start of the contract is actually being delivered at the end of it. Because at the end of the day, if you aren't managing the relationship, you're just waiting for the next crisis to hit you. And that's all for today's episode. I hope you got some value out of it. As this is a huge topic and a fundamental one, I've put together an ebook to highlight the risks in each of these three processes. Visit procurementsignal.com and scroll down to the resource section to check it out. I'll catch you next time.
If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a colleague or, even better, your leader. They'll thank you later. And that's what the Procurement Signal is here to do. Amplify the real value of procurement and help teams everywhere step into their strategic power. Please subscribe, share it with your team, and join us next time on another transformative procurement topic. Visit www.procurementsignal.com for more info. Stay curious and keep tuning into the signal.